So Ethan, it's nice to finally talk to you and meet you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, making movies in College Station, Texas, living the dream.
Nice,
Right
nice.
on.
Why don't you introduce yourself to anyone who isn't aware of who you are?
Okay. Well, I'm Ethan. I've been a filmmaker for about 4, 5, 6 years, and really just been kind of doing my own thing. Thought about going to film school. Wasn't really. Kind of wanted to do other things. I'm not really a school person, I guess. So I just started making short films. Made a lot. My senior year of high school, freshman year of college, I was doing like the basics and everything. And then one day I decided, you know what, I want to make a feature film, even if I have no money. And then that's Assassin. And then I realized that I love this and I want to keep on doing it. And then I made Not Now.
Nice,
Great.
nice. And where are you located?
So I'm in College Station, Texas right now. I originally started in like Houston, Texas, when I was in high school, making films there. And I think after that, Austin, Texas is probably my next step.
Nice.
Nice. So what's kind of the start of your filmmaking journey? Like what got you into that? And then kind of take us through, I don't know, just what got you into
Yeah.
this?
So I guess my entire life I've always wanted to be a storyteller. Um, I did a lot of writing, short stories. Even wrote like a couple novels when I was a kid. They weren't any good, obviously, but I just wanted to. I had like all these ideas that I had. I just wanted to put them down on paper. I even have like a published comic book from when I was like in third grade. My mom sent it to a publisher. I got published, and it was really cool. That's just like I just
Okay.
been a storyteller since I was born. And then when I got into middle school, I started getting into plays. So I started writing plays, started acting in them. And then in high school is when I really started realizing exactly what I wanted to do. And I started getting into film. I guess the thing that kind of pushed me onto film was, I think it was like the 2015 Oscars. The one with like Mad Max, Room, Brooklyn. And I was just looking at these and I was like, wow, these films are winning awards and everyone's super into it. So I want to start watching these movies. And then so I started watching some of those films. Like I had seen movies my entire life, but I never really got to appreciate it. And I think around my junior year of high school, I started writing a feature film. I had never even made a short film. I've never even picked up a camera in my life. And then I picked up a camera for the first time, wrote this script, and it was terrible. It's like 45 minutes, and I had like memes in there. I didn't even know how to properly format a script, and I just sent it to my friends, and we started making something. We never ended up finishing it, but it was a good stepping stone, and I learned a lot. And then my senior year is when I really started, you know, pursuing filmmaking, and that's when I started making short films. I made about like six my senior year, and then my freshman year of college, I made about 12 short films, and a lot of them are not really that good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't release a lot of them, but it was just like the practice that I got from it.
Well, that's awesome.
And are you in film school right now, or are you in school for something else?
I'm not in school right now. I was, I'm kind of on and off with it. I'll take a semester off and then go back for a year and then take a semester off. That's how I've been for like the past like 4 years. But right now I'm currently not, but I am debating going to film school. I actually did an interview for Not Now at a film school recently, and I was looking around and I was thinking I could learn a lot from this. So I've been debating that.
Nice,
That's
nice.
really cool.
No, we were talking about before this. We were when we saw your movie, which we'll get to, but we were like, I think he's in school, but I don't know because the main character's kind of on and off. We were
Yeah.
kind of going back and forth, like, is he in school? Is he not in school? If he's in school, what's he in school for? That's really cool. Taking it back just a little bit, what are some of the biggest kind of, I guess, film influences that you have? Movies that influenced you, kind of getting into filmmaking.
I think number one, my greatest favorite film of all time is Interstellar. It was,
Nice.
I think that was the first movie that I really like truly fell in love with, and just made me realize like, wow, what you can do with filmmaking. So Interstellar just blew me away. What's so funny is that we played it in my science class through my senior year. It was like the last month, and we would just watch Interstellar until we finished it. And I didn't even pay attention. I was on my phone the entire time. And I think it was the scene. It was the scene. Interstellar spoilers. Whenever Matt Damon's character, Dr. Mann, tries to take over the ship, and then you have that big crazy docking sequence afterwards. I watched that and I was like, I can't believe I'm like watching this right now, and haven't paid attention to the entire movie. It just got me so wrapped up in it. So I went home and then I rented it, and then I watched it the entire way through, completely focused. I had like a blanket over my head, and I was so into it. And I said, I love this so much, and then I watched it again. I was just like super into it, and I was just blown away by the entire thing. I never really like appreciated a movie like that before, so I watched it again just to like relive that feeling. And second watch was even better. I just realized and picked up on so many more things. I think that's when I realized like I really want to do this, because I had been playing around with the idea for it for a while. You know, this is towards the end of my senior year of high school, so I'd made some short films, but I wasn't really like, you know, they weren't, I would say, like anything that I was proud of. And watching Interstellar made me realize I want to make something that I am proud of. And then I made a short film, like literally a week afterwards, and it's called Tour, and it's just, you know, kind of like a walk and talk film, but towards the end, I guess there's like a plot twist, and I in the original cut, because I used it for my final. For my final, we were supposed to do like an experimental film, and this was just like, it wasn't experimental really at all. So I just like, I sent this cut with like just some weird edits, and then I had the main theme from Interstellar in the background at one point, and everyone's like, "Oh, experimental, he's sampling other films," and I was like, "No, I just really like the music." And then eventually I recut it to get, you know, to use like different music that wasn't from another movie, and recut it to make it a little bit more watchable. But yeah, that's how Interstellar kind of inspired me.
That's awesome. That's super good. So coming forward, you made a movie called Assassin. What kind of bridged over from, okay, you're making short films and now you're going to make your first feature? What kind of sparked that? And then we'll kind of take us through the process of getting that movie put together.
Yeah. So I had made a short film called Assassin when I was in high school, because we had this big game, Nerf gun game, and everyone would get a target, and then you'd have to shoot that target with a Nerf gun in order to move on to the next round. But the twist is that someone's also targeting you, so you have 1 week to get your target out or to get shot, and then after that week, everyone gets assigned new targets. And so I thought this would make a really good film idea. Like, I've never heard about this. I made a short film about it, but I made it like really over dramatic, kind of like assassin movie where I just kind of parody thing. I threw like rock music in. The protagonist was like, I hadn't seen Drive at the time, but the best way to describe him is like the driver, just like stone cold killer, like that shows like very little emotion. It was just kind of like an inside joke for me and my senior class, and everyone loved it from my senior class. But I always had like in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something more with the concept. So I guess I started writing the screenplay like the summer after senior year. And I threw like a bunch of ideas, and I had like a first draft, nothing like what the film is today. It was really just kind of like, the first draft was still following that like stone cold killer protagonist, going through a game of assassin, but there wasn't any stakes, there wasn't like any emotional core to it. So I kind of put that on the shelf, started working on some more short films. And it was like my second semester, freshman year of college, that I made so many short films, especially that summer. I made like 6, which is the most I'd ever made in like a 3-month time span. And then I kind of sat down and I looked at everything I've done, and I was pretty proud of myself. And I said, you know what, I think it's time to do something bigger with this. And then I had that assassin idea. And then whenever around that time I moved to College Station to go to community college here. And I would like, in the middle of my class, I'd just be writing down ideas for Assassin. Like, I would not be paying attention at all. I failed the class just because like I literally did not learn anything. I was just writing Assassin on my laptop, you know, brainstorming ideas, writing the screenplay. Around, let's say, October of 2018 is whenever I had the finished screenplay. I went on Backstage, I posted an ad. 400 people applied. Because it was in Houston. We were going to film in my hometown in Houston. So I got like 400 people who applied. And I was like, wow, I can't believe like this many people want to be in my movie. So I called everyone back to an audition in Houston. And that's where I met the majority of the actors, aside from the lead actress, Heather. She just auditioned online, but everyone else auditioned in person. And I guess the only person that I knew beforehand, aside from like a few small roles, was Clyde. That's a short guy, Nathan Orlando. And I met him, I worked with him, and he was in a lot of my short films. So he's the one person that kind of carried over to Assassin from my other stuff. But everyone else I met through backstage, and they were just, I mean, they all did an amazing job during their auditions, and I said, wow, I can't believe I think I'm getting this cast together. And yeah, through that casting call, I met Landon Brooks, and he's also the lead in Not Now. And I've worked on a few short films with him too, that his mom produced, and David Ober, a director that a friend of mine directed. So that was like the casting process. And then around that time, I also lost my job too. I was a server at Star Cinema Grill, and I was making a lot of money. But I just had some disagreements with management. Things didn't work out, and suddenly I'm broke. Like 2 months before I'm supposed to shoot this movie. So I get 2 jobs like on the fly, try to save up as much money as possible. And time comes, the casting process, everything, all the pre-production. And I started filming Assassin January of 2019 for 2 weeks straight around that. And I was living here in College Station, but I wanted to film it in my hometown of Cypress because it's based on that senior tradition of mine. So I would just drive back and forth every day, so that's like a 1-hour drive at least. So I was driving like 2 hours a day. Landon, the lead actor, he lived here in College Station, so I'd bring him, and then I'd bring like a few crew members every day. And then also the antagonist, Hunter, played by Cameron Payne, was staying on my couch at the time. So I was just like toting everyone back and forth. I mean, one day we had like 6 people in my car. Someone had to like sit in the lap for that hour there, an hour back. So it was it was a long process, really stressful process, and I was dead broke by the end of it. But I think that was like probably one of the best 1.5, 2 weeks of my life, was just filming my first feature and being completely in control of it, which is another thing, because whenever I was in high school, I wasn't, you obviously didn't have a lot of control in that. You have your teachers and then other people that are in the project with you. And then I wasn't as confident as a director as I was whenever I stepped onto the set of Assassin. So the previous short films, I didn't feel as in control. I was still like learning my way, but now I just felt like I was in the driver's seat, ready to direct this movie. And it took about, after production, it took about like 9 months to edit. And then we had the finished film, and we just wanted to do a premiere date. We had like an unofficial premiere, like in my friend's backyard, and then we never got a formal premiere. So I said, what, I'm just gonna put it on Amazon Prime, and then I released it mid-December of 2019. So almost a year after we started filming it.
Wow,
Man.
that's incredible. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah, that's the whole process. That's awesome.
It's like a true filmmaker story right
I
there,
know,
going
I love
broke
it.
on your
I know,
movie.
I usually,
Jeez.
No, that's awesome. What was the budget for the movie
For
for Assassin?
I didn't write it down. I just kind of like,
Yeah,
uh,
just out of pocket expenses, pretty much.
yeah, estimated, I would say like $4,000. You still have like, I had a good amount I spent on gas, obviously driving there and back every day. Food was a big expense. We started running out of food money, so I just started making mac and cheese for the casting crew.
Nice.
I think it was like the ending scene, the finale of Assassin, where there's like 60, 40 people or something like that. I think it was like 46 was the exact number that we had throughout the entire day. I just asked my mom if she could make I bought like a massive thing of ground beef and a bunch of tortillas and like a big like cheese tomato platter, and I said, can you just make a bunch of taco meat and everyone serve themselves tacos, because I don't know how I'm gonna feed 46 people. And we already did pizza day before, so we can't do that again. So yeah, that's where a lot of the expenses went. I paid some of the actors a little bit, as much as I could spare, but that's like my main thing is like, getting everyone paid. That's what really like balloons your budget. So thankfully I had a lot of people willing to work for free, work for experience, work for credit. And I'm out here, losing a lot of money because I didn't really make that much money of Assassin, but I didn't want to. It wasn't really about the money for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's great. And so, what kind of, going off of that being your first big feature film, what kind of advice would you have for any filmmakers who want to make that transition from short film to feature film?
What I tell a lot of my friends who want to get into feature films is that one day you just have to make that decision to where, you stand in front of your mirror, you look yourself in the eyes, and you're saying, "This is it. I'm making this movie no matter what." And that's what I did with Assassin, because I've been known to someone who starts a lot of projects but never finishes them. And no one believed I was going to finish Assassin. You know, I started 2 feature films in high school. I didn't finish both of them. I had ideas for features, never like got them off the ground. There was a lot of short films that are just incomplete that I never released. And I just had to like look at myself in the eyes, and I had to say, "You're going to make this movie no matter what." And so even though I lost my job right before we started filming Assassin, I said, you know what? If I have to cut corners, I have to cut expenses. You know, I wanted to get nicer equipment, nicer audio equipment, but that didn't end up working out. I just said, I'm gonna make it. If it fails, if I go into debt, which thankfully, one thing I'm very happy about is I've never been in debt my entire life. I don't plan on it. And that's like one thing about making movies, is that you might be in debt. So I'm pretty proud of myself, pretty much proud of myself for that. But even I was willing to risk that just for the sake of the movie. No matter what, even if it was terrible, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna release it, and hopefully somebody likes it. If not, I'm proud of myself either way. I think people just have to make that decision, that they have to just, no matter what, I'm gonna make this movie.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic. So now you've finished your first feature. Bring us into what kind of got you started on making Not Now as your second feature.
Yeah, so originally my second feature was going to be Adrenaline, and that's kind of the project, like my big project that I want to try really hard on. But we started filming that late 2019, just like any days that we had off, with the lead actor, Devin Craig, the most talented person I ever worked with. And so I wrote Adrenaline around him when he reached out to me. We started working on that. I finished the screenplay, and we filmed about like 25% of the film. And then COVID hit, so we had to stop production completely. And during COVID, whenever I was in quarantine, I kind of had this idea for a film that I wanted to do. And it's called The Perfect Shade of Orange. And it's basically based on kind of a romance that I had when I was working at Star Cinema Grill in Houston. About, at this point, it's probably about I think 3 years ago, which is crazy. And so basically I wanted to translate that, put it into a script, and, you know, make a story about it, because it's like one of those like defining periods of my life. And over time, it kind of morphed into Not Now, which is more of a collection of just like misconceptions I had about dating in general. And then I, you know, over the summer, it kind of progressed into what it is, like what the screenplay is now. But I just basically just had like all these collections of memories and things, scene ideas. I found a way to work them into this film.
Nice. That's awesome. And so, in terms of your writing process, it sounds like you move fairly quickly, because did you start writing Not Now in 2019? Is that about correct?
No, actually, honestly, I wrote Not Now in like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that's
And the
awesome.
majority of it was like in the 4-day span. I guess the thing, it's a little sad, but what kind of like triggered me to do it is I lost about like 2 friends in a week span. Their names were Asa Graham and Ayo. If people from film Twitter would know him as Ayo. And I lost both of them in like the same period of time, and I was just like really needed to get my mind off of it. And so I just sat down in front of my computer, and I told myself I'm not getting up until like I wrote this amount, and it was like 20 pages or something. And that day I wrote like 30 pages, and the next day I wrote like another 30 pages. The next day I wrote another 30 pages, and then I edited it after like there was like 150 pages towards the end of that time period. And then I cut it down, got all this unnecessary stuff out, ended up with about like a 102-page script. And then it was just a lot of tweaking and like random small things that I did the rest of those 2 weeks. But for the majority of it, it was just those 4 days, just writing down, trying to get my mind off of what was happening, and came out. I would say like the script was a little rushed. Like there's a little like small scenes that I just said improv in there. But honestly, I think that kind of adds to the charm of the film too. It's not, you know, this super planned out masterpiece or anything like that. It's a really like authentic and personal film, and I was just pouring my heart out on the screenplay.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that really shows in the movie too. I mean, I think what I loved most about Not Now and also Assassin is like you take these at the center of it. There's this great kind of human drama and emotional heart to the center of both of the movies. In Assassin, it felt more like it kind of snuck up on you in the middle of this really fun, chaotic, kind of fun high school movie. But in Not Now, what I loved is just like that was just the focus. It was this guy and his relationship and everything he's going through, and it really comes across. So awesome job. I loved it. Yeah, I feel like I've been hogging.
No, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I couldn't think of one.
Okay, well, okay. So
if you got one, go for it.
when did you start shooting Not Now?
July 2020. I think it was like the last week and a half of July that we started shooting. And again, we just for a week and a half shot every day. Pretty much filmed about, I'd say, 85% of the movie at that time period. So we filmed that, and then what we wanted to do is get everyone back together at the end of August to shoot everything else, because we just couldn't fit everything in that small period of time. So I was excited for that, and then Olivia Crowe, actress of Summer, she caught COVID, so we weren't able to meet up again. And then it was just over like the next, I'd say 6, 7, 8 months. It was just trying to get everyone together, but someone just had like, something going on. The actor for Max, Daniel Farrell, he moved to LA in the middle of that time period.
Oh no!
But I mean, I'm happy for him. He is living the dream. He's a talented actor, and I'm so happy for him that he did that. So it was just like we had to, be able to schedule a date for him to come down that everyone else could make it. And originally he was going to be able to show up for our reshoots all the way out in July of this year. So it's like almost a year later that we were able to get everyone back together. But he wasn't able to he booked a commercial, I think for Starbucks. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but he booked a commercial for Starbucks. I said, you got to take it. This is like a big deal. You're already in my movie. We can work around it. So if you ever in the date, date ruining montage where Noah and Summer ruins, spoilers, Max and Autumn's date, you won't see Max in there for a lot of the scene because he wasn't here. We just had to work around it. But honestly, a lot of people say they can't tell unless they pay attention really closely. So I think it worked out pretty well. And yeah, we shot those. Yeah. We had like 2 shooting dates before like our big reshoot date, where we shot like the scene with the general manager George, who plays Noah's manager, and then we had like a random like just pickup shot day, and then we shot for like 3 days for reshoots. So those are pretty much I'd say about a week and 2 days of shooting in total.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's really impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're going into a shoot like that, how much planning do you have going in? Like, are you like shot listing or storyboarding? Or are you kind of just like, you show up, you have it in your head, and you just go for it?
I should make a shot list, and I should storyboard, but I don't.
It turns out great. You don't need to if it works for you. What you're doing is great.
I think for Adrenaline, I definitely will, because I think it's one of those movies that you have to plan out a little bit more. But with especially with Not Now, I really did not plan it out that well, and I didn't really feel the need to. I trusted the actors and actresses. The actress for Autumn, Neda Ghasemi, super talented, and she added so much to the film that I think if I planned it out too much, I wouldn't be able to work with her personality as well, because she absolutely kills it in the film. And I think that if I was like, really, really stingy and directed her way too much, and I had this like big idea in my head, I don't think I would have captured the character of Autumn as well with that. So in the future, I definitely plan on shot listing, storyboarding, planning it out a little bit more.
So what would you say is your like best day on set, or like your favorite day that you had on set for filming Not Now?
That's a good question. I would say it was the Monday that we filmed, and that was the day we shot the big, like, I guess the climax of Not Now. It's a big argument scene. I think that was my favorite day because I've never been more invested into a scene, like directing wise, than I was with that. Everyone on set was like, wow, this is like really intense, especially whenever Daniel, aka Max, had his kind of like his monologue where he tells Noah off. Everyone was just like blown away because it really just like, we've been following his character behind the scenes on camera this entire time, and suddenly we just get to see him like, kind of say what he thinks, and it was just like, wow. Especially because everyone there was just like on top of their game, and I just had so much fun. I think that's the best feeling I've ever had on set. Was that Monday night.
Nice. And so, what is your process like? So, when you show up to shoot, if it's a day of shooting, I mean, what do you do? Do you get there first? Do you get there kind of later on when other people are showing up? I mean, walk me through your process. Like, you show up with the camera, actors and everything. What do you do first? Take me through how you film.
So whenever I get on set, I should be first. I usually try to get there early, but I'm me and I always forget something. I have like really bad ADHD, so I usually forget like an SD card, a battery, so I have to go back to my house. Sometimes I'll forget the entire camera. There was one time whenever for Assassin, whenever I had to drive all the way to Houston from College Station, and I left the camera, and I realized that halfway through, I'm like, okay, we're going back. We're gonna be, I think, because we're like 30 minutes in, so that's 30 minutes back. So we're an hour late that day. But say about like 50-50, I'm early, or the other 50, I'm late by like 15 minutes or something like that. But and then I have really good, like really hands-on crew members. Two of my close friends, Jesse Hernandez and Mason Haggerty. Jesse usually does the audio, and Mason does the cinematography. And so they get everything set up for me because they know like what I like, and then they add, lighting-wise, Mason's a guru at that. I don't really mess with lighting, and he does pretty much all of that. So I'm thankful to have them, and they'll be on set like a little bit before me, so they get that set up. Mostly for me, I'm just like into people management. I like to have like a good amount of actors in scenes. Like that's like one thing I've always liked. I don't think I've ever could have like a really like small cast. Although for the feature that I'm working on right now has like a 4-person cast. But in general, I used to have like the big cast. So I'm always like, hey, where are you? Are you gonna be late? Can you bring a friend with you for an extra? So that's usually what I'm doing at the beginning of the shoot. And then by the time everyone shows up, camera, lighting should be set up, and we'll get into that first scene.
And do you guys go through rehearsals before you shoot, or do you guys do that another day? Do the actors come with the lines memorized? How does that all work out on your movies?
I'm pretty lucky to have really good actors who have their lines memorized. The best is Landon Brooks, Noah, and Parker in Assassin. He always has his lines down 100%. I love that. The one, like the complete opposite, is Nathan. Even though I love him for it too, he does not like ever have his lines memorized. He's just like improvising on set. So usually what we do is like right before we do a take, we rehearse. I let them kind of work out the scene on their own, see how they feel about it, and then while I'm setting up the shot, setting up the lighting, audio, and then after they've run it through a few times just between the actors, I'll step in and I'll do a stop and start. And basically they'll go through the scene and I'll stop them, tell them what right whenever there's something I notice, because I'm gonna forget by the end of the run through, and I'll stop and I'll make a note. We'll go back 2 lines so we can run through that, see how it seems, and I'll just pretty much just stop until we get to the end of the scene, and then we start filming. And usually it takes about like 3 takes before I really figure out exactly what I want, and then we just take that, try to replicate that in the best way possible. So it takes about, I'd say on average, about like 7 takes for me, because there's usually like out of focus camera or audio issues, that kind of stuff.
Great.
Shoot, I don't have one.
Oh, you don't have.
I was so invested in that I wasn't thinking of a next question.
So I kind of relate to you in the sense that when I'm directing, I don't. I'm not touching the camera. I like not to touch the gear. I just like working with the actors and people managing. What do you think is a skill that, if someone wants to be a director, like what's something that you need, a skill or trait or something you need to be successful at managing people and leading people?
Yeah, I think most importantly it's vision. If you don't have that vision, people aren't going to feel confident in your directing. I think that's one problem that I've had on sets before, is that I'm very like kind of unsure of what I want, and so I'll throw out to Mason, my DP, and say like, hey, what do you think? Because I have nothing. And I think that's when people kind of lose confidence as you as a director, and it's hard to lead people whenever you don't have that end goal in mind. And I think another trait to have is kind of like the opposite. It's humility, being able to, take what other people are saying and use it to improve your vision. So even though you have to have that base vision, you have to be willing to make amends. Because like I said before, actress for Autumn, Neda Ghasemi, she's like nothing close to what I expected from Autumn. The IRL Autumn that I kind of based her off of. She acts completely different than her, but she kind of morphed into something that I think fits the film a lot more. And if I didn't have that humility, I kind of would have just been like, hey, stop acting this way, act something different. And I don't think that would have, been a good thing. So I think those are like the two most important traits.
Nice.
That's awesome.
No, I definitely agree with that, because I've noticed that indecisiveness just like will make people lose their faith in you, in your leadership so quickly. Like if you don't know what you want,
And yourself.
and yourself, if you don't know something I would say to directors or someone who wants to be a director, even if you're unsure, don't tell people that you're unsure. And if you want someone else to get ideas from, don't make it seem like you don't know. I think I've said to you or some other people, I'll be like, what do you think? And I'll turn it on them, and I'll pretend to be all confident and like I'm thinking and I'm all smart and intelligent. But really, I'm just lost, and I'm looking for ideas. That's definitely a trick I'd recommend to other people who are directing and kind of feel lost.
And it sounds like you have a crew that like understands what you're going for. So it sounds like, I would assume there's a dialogue there too, where you guys can give each other suggestions. And I know that's what we do a lot.
Yeah.
Like I will very much tell you what I think should happen if I feel like there's something I feel strongly on in a scene.
Yeah.
But is that a dynamic you guys have, or is it pretty, I don't know, director leading it?
Yeah, it kind of varies set to set. I'd say originally during Assassin, I think as I've progressed as a director, I was really like kind of stuck in my own vision. And so in the past, we've had like, I would kind of be like really argumentative with other crew members, not like a negative way, but kind of just like, hey, I see it this way. And so that dialogue wasn't as open as it is, I would say now, especially not now. I just kind of like, we were really open about, I would just say, if you have a suggestion, please say it. I'm going to take everything and, think about it and think about how can this add to the film. And I think whenever I'm on other people's sets, I always like to, point out, like be like that backseat director, even though I probably shouldn't sometimes, but I just can't help myself. But I try to do it like the most respectful way possible, not try to be like, really pushy about it, but just like throw a suggestion out there like, hey, I think we framed it this way, I think, or do like a little push in here. I'm big on camera movements. Whenever I'm on set, like I always like kind of like try to push people to like other directors to move the camera a little bit more. Because I think that's kind of like an underrated aspect of cinematography, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree. That opening one shot, there's a one shot in the beginning of the movie. Was that planned out from the very beginning, or was that just something on the fly? You were like, you know what? I think this should be a one shot. It like sweeps through the house and goes upstairs. If I, from my
Yeah,
memory.
you're right.
Yeah, so it's actually it's 3 separate one takes, I think, in the opening scene, where it's like.
Nice.
It's like the first, like, they're sitting on the couch. Second is kind of like whenever he's arguing with... That's actually me playing my cameo at the door whenever he's, like, telling me to get out of his house. And then whenever he goes upstairs, it cuts to the third take. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to check the screenplay, but I'm pretty sure, like, I'd planned those out beforehand. But I didn't really, like, plan it out. Like, I knew it was going to be a one take, like, 3 separate one takes, but I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it until we got there. And I talked with Mason and we planned it out. It took a while actually to like, get all of those down really good. But once we did, it was, I think we made like a little bit of magic, especially with that third take. Whenever he's like, making eye contact with Summer, they kind of have that moment. Whenever we're watching it back, we're like, wow, we really did something good. And the timing with the music, whenever we actually filmed it on set, we didn't have any music playing. So we're just like, I'm hoping, like, hopefully they time it really well, and they did. They did perfectly. I don't know how it happened. It's a miracle.
Were those music choices pre-selected, or did you throw that stuff in editing, just trying to see what worked and what didn't?
It's about 60-40. So the main theme of Not Now, called For the First Time by Mac DeMarco, that was like planned out ahead of time because it's in the script, and then they have to figure out, like, it has to match up with that For the First Time by Darius Rucker, the country song. So you have, a reason as to why For the First Time is playing over like the Texas Roadhouse speakers. But so we had that planned out ahead of time, and a few other Mac DeMarco songs. But for the most part, yeah, I'd say it's about like 40% planned out, 60% not planned out. Originally, I think it's Cigarettes After Sex, their song K, came in probably like the last week of editing. Originally, I had like a Mac DeMarco song there for that kind of sad montage, and then I was listening to the song, and I was like, you know what? This would fit really good for that scene. Completely changed it up like a week beforehand. So just like a mixed bag, music choice wise.
Super cool.
I saw on Twitter before the movie went live, you made a change to it with the aspect ratio. You made it from, I think, 1:3:9 to 16:9. And when I watched it, I was surprised to see you kind of go between the two throughout. If any of our viewers know us, we love changing aspect ratio. We love weird aspect ratios. We love that. So right away, when you changed that in the beginning, I was like, yes. So talk to me about the reasons behind different aspect ratio choices in the movie.
No, so originally I had it to where it was kind of like the aspect ratio was supposed to be for those like really romanticized moments. Whenever it kind of I forgot the exact aspect ratio. It's not quite like 16:9 or like 1.39:1 or something, but it kind of the aspect ratio switch is supposed to happen in like kind of those big romantic moments originally, and then I kind of was toying with it, and I felt like some scenes I don't have a logical reasoning why, I just felt it. And so I just, I changed the aspect ratios, especially for that climactic scene, with like the argument scene, I guess. I kind of want, even though it's not like a really romantic scene at all, I kind of felt like it needed it. I feel like it puts you into the scene a little bit more.
I love that. Because on ours, I think on October, I think with the editing, I was a very similar way where I was like, what feels right for the scene in this moment, and based it off of a feeling rather than logic. With our other movie, Video Carnage, that had a very intentional thing of like, it's going to be this aspect ratio and it's going to shift at this moment for this reason. So I love you hearing saying that just, we just went off of it just based on a feeling, because that's what editing is. How do you edit? What's your editing process like?
It varies, but I have like a pretty good computer setup right now. Edits really well, edits 4K. I used to edit on this laptop that I'm on right now, but it's so slow. It's a like 2017 MacBook Air, so I switched over. I had like a PC setup that I bought with like my first stimulus check, and I have that. And a lot of times, especially like right after I film Not Now, I would just edit very erratically, and then right when I set myself a deadline, about like the last 2 weeks before I release Not Now, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd edit until I have to go to work, come back, edit some more. And I think it's just really like, if I set myself a deadline, I'm gonna edit every day, because I don't hate editing, I love it. Sorry, my throat's really dry right now.
Oh, you're good.
Very good.
You're good.
I don't hate editing. I think if I have like caffeine and like some snacks, I can sit down and edit for like 8 hours straight. I think I've done that before. I think the longest I've sat down and edited was for Assassin for like 9.5 hours. Restroom breaks and like 2 food breaks, and that was it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I can relate to that. I'm in the middle of editing Bell Rings right now, and I'm definitely I'm out of the groove, and I'm trying to get back into it. But once you find that, it's that magical, like, I don't need food, I don't need sleep, like, go time, and it's the best feeling on earth sometimes. But yeah, that's awesome. And how long were you editing Not Now for?
So I had like an editing phase from, I'd say, in 2020, I would say like September to November. I was editing a lot of Not Now. I edited about like 45%. And then I stopped editing for a while, like almost completely. And then I restarted editing about like March of this year. Edited for like a month straight. We got really close to that period, and then the month before releasing Not Now, I was editing like a lot. So it was just kind of like 3 different phases that I had. You know, one was like a month long, a couple months long, and then sometimes I just don't edit for like a few months straight.
And having that break in your editing where it's a couple months you're stepped away from it, does that like do you feel like that helps you? Like, do you come back with kind of like a fresh set of eyes, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, I think it helps me. It helps me preventing me from burning out. And then also sometimes, you know, I just want to live my life. I think that's one problem that I have is like if I get really too much into it, I get really consumed by film. And I push away my friends, and I forget to like, you know, enjoy life. Especially during editing Assassin. I didn't hang out with my friends for like a month straight. Especially when I was having like some troubles, you know, with the audio with Assassin. I was like really depressed and, you know, beating down on myself that I would just spend so many hours trying to fix the audio that I would like, you know, not go out and do anything. And I think having breaks really helps, not just like with my mental health, but with the film.
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. And so now that the movie's out, I think it's been out for about a month or so, or maybe almost
2 weeks.
2
2
weeks.
weeks, right? Yeah, 2 weeks.
Time has moved so crazy
Yeah.
for us. How's the reception been for you? Has it gotten the reaction that you've enjoyed? Are there any readings or reviews that have really kind of spoken to you? I mean, what's been your kind of point of view of its release and all that?
I think the most appreciative people have been filmmakers. Critically, I think they kind of understand, especially with like, you know, really low budget productions. Obviously, there's gonna be technical issues. I think the main people pointed out, like the main like technical issue was just the audio mixing, and I think my main problem. This is like my recommendation to all filmmakers: do not buy the DDS Mic 2. Maybe I have like a faulty one or something, but I was so sold on it, and even it's like a little expensive, and I was gonna replace like for my Rode NTG2. Whenever we got on set of Not Now, I wasn't doing the audio. It was Jimena Castillo. She was audio for every day of Not Now, and you know, I wasn't really be able to pick up on, like, it picks up so much background noise, and then kind of like, you know, tripped me up a little bit whenever I was doing the edit. I was like, wow, this boom mic, you know, it didn't perform like I thought it would. And then I looked at some like I think what's it called? Parker Walbeck. He does Filmmaker channel. What's it called again?
I don't know it.
I'm not sure. I recognize the name.
Yeah.
I can't remember the channel.
Yeah, he has a filmmaking channel, really popular one, and he reviewed the DDS mic too, and he was saying like, you know, an on camera like the Rode Video Mic Pro was doing better than the DDS mic 2 that costs like twice as much. I don't mean to like, you know, hate on DD or anything, but that was like one of those things that.
But screw those guys.
Yeah.
I just got into that like little rant, but that was yeah, that was like one of the main critical points was like the audio, and then of course. And a little bit of that is on me not checking back the audio after we did it. And I think, yeah, the audio from like my Rode NTT2 would have done better, even though it's like 3 years older than half the price. So that was like the main like technical issue. And I think story-wise, a lot of people had issues with like the main character being unlikable. And that was kind of the point that I was going for. And I kind of realized that maybe that wasn't the best choice. Maybe make him a little bit more likable. But I also don't want to see like people to see Noah as this perfect guy, because obviously he has a lot of flaws, and it's kind of a reflection of myself too, that I'm not exactly happy with how I acted and my misconceptions that I had about dating, and I kind of wanted to, you know, shine a negative light on that side of me.
Nice. I know I can speak to the audio. Audio is probably one of the toughest things for filmmakers to master. That's something we're still working with and learning.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I think what's important about your movie is that it has a heart. It comes from a very real place. Technical issues or no, you know, it's a very truthful and movie. And I think that's the most important thing about it. So, I mean, in my opinion, like, you know, 5 out of 5 stars. Not that I believe in rating movies, but it's like, yes, like
You were
awesome.
successful in what you were going for.
Yes.
I agree
The
completely.
movie worked for us, and
Yeah.
for us, I didn't really. I thought I agree with you. I think it was the point that Noah was a little bit unlikable, and it was about his journey from, you know, where he is at the beginning to the very end. So worked for us. So whoever said that, shame on. No, I'm joking. No, we love the movie here. That's all we're trying to say. And I guess as we're coming to an end here, I guess you've said Adrenaline is a movie you want to make next. What are your bigger dreams for filmmaking? What's kind of your long-term goal or short-term goals?
Yeah. My number one short-term goal is to make Adrenaline. I'm rewriting it right now. I'm kind of just like getting all my ideas out on paper, and I think I'm slowly figuring out like how it works on like all three aspects. You know, you have the external conflict, internal conflict, and then the philosophical conflict of the film. You know, the meaning of it. And I think I'm starting to finally get like all of those pieces together and realizing how do I make this the best film that it can possibly be. And so I want to get that done. I've been looking through like some of the old footage that I had that we shot, like the 25% that we shot back in 2019 and early 2020. And I'm just like looking at it and I said, it has so much potential. And now that I'm a more, I would say I'm a much more like experienced director, especially after Not Now, and kind of just like understanding my mistakes, that I think it could really be, you know, one of those films that I'm really, really proud of. Think something that I put out at film festivals, and hopefully be able to do more. Because even though I like releasing films on YouTube and I like, you know, I like folk filmmaking, I do want to see my movies in theaters. I do want to put my stuff in cinemas because, you know, that's what I fell in love with, is seeing movies in theaters. And I kind of want to be able to do that and then be able to get opportunities to make other things. I think the opposite end of the spectrum from, you know, Adrenaline, my short-term goal, my long-term goal is to make a space movie, kind of like Interstellar, but my own take on that.
All right, everyone. Due to some technical difficulties, we were unable to record the rest of the interview with Ethan. We ended up talking about for 10 more minutes before we realized that some of our camera gear wasn't working right. And so that footage is just gone. But the conversation was great. Just take our word for it. But don't feel like you missed out on so much because we were really winding down. We only had a couple more questions left for him. The most important thing that we do want to fill you in on, though, is where you can find Ethan. So we're going to leave that information down in the link in the description below. Make sure you check out Ethan on Twitter, Instagram, his YouTube channel, of course. Go check out the Not Now. He's a really good dude, great filmmaker, and we would just love it if you all could go out and support his work because we think he's a really talented guy who deserves some more attention and more eyes on his stuff. Oops, my computer went off. So anyways, thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you on the next video.